This is my own custom Star Wars figure. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Tyrant, and today, oh boy, we have a really big project. I've wanted to do this project probably since I was like 8 years old. I wanted to make my own custom action figure since I was a little kid, and I've finally done it. Here I have my own custom Star Wars figure, yes. This project has taken me a very long time to do, and I've been working on this project in the background for quite a while now, like genuinely a long time. I think I sculpted the head for the figure, like I actually did the 3D modeling for the head like a year ago. And I've been very slowly getting all the resources together that I needed, all the different parts, and then I finally started to do this project, and it is done. It's ready to go, and I couldn't be happier. I think it turned out fantastic. Chef's kiss. It turned out incredible. I genuinely hope you guys enjoy this video, because this one, it took a while to do this project, and here it is. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what I did was I grabbed both of my individual figures and needed to take them apart. Now, when I say I take them apart, I mean remove the packaging as cleanly and as nice as possible, because I am going to be using the exact same packaging later on to when the figure is finished, and I need to make sure that it's nice and clean when it goes back together. So I tried to remove the figure very carefully. Now that I've got both of my figures out and ready, what I'm going to do is pull them both apart, because I need individual pieces from both of the figures basically. So what I'm going to do is take things like the cape and the chest plate from the Mando figure and put that onto the other Mandalorian figure, because those are the parts that I need on my figure. So I just slowly disassemble it, pulling it apart as I go. Now, something to mention is that I thought that the construction method for all of the figures would be the same, so I could just plug and play all of the different parts like the arms and legs and things like that. But the construction method was actually different. So what ended up happening was I had to cut the parts and then use super glue to reattach them together. So glue was required to make these figures. Then I started the painting process. I started with my airbrush to airbrush on the red colors that I needed. I later went in with darker reds to add in the shadows, and then a little bit more red later on. There was a little bit of a different shade to add highlights. First off, I just need to paint all the individual armored pieces. Now, the red of the armor from my comic book is actually a very deep burgundy maroon color, so the color that you're seeing on the screen is actually pretty close to what I was wanting it to be. I don't want it to be a bright, flashy red. I want it to be a very subdued burgundy or maroon color. So even though I actually painted the helmet, I decided against putting it in the final figure because I didn't feel like it was needed, and I think it made it a bit too crowded. I painted the belt brown, and then I went over to the cape and gave it a really nice blue highlight color, kind of like a vintage comic book superhero cape. Basically, that was the inspiration behind the color combination. Then I moved on to the actual figure itself. Now, I wanted the clothing underneath the armor to be dark grey or black, so I'll add grey to the highlights a little bit later on. Now, it was time to start actually assembling the figure. Now, as I said before, the figure actually didn't go together as I thought it would. I thought it would be very plug and play, but the truth is I had to cut parts and then glue them together. So it does have some mobility, as you would expect with a figure, but it doesn't have a great range of motion like in the original figures. It is a little bit limited because I had to use some glue. Using super glue, I attached the shoulder pauldrons to the figure, and honestly, the super glue actually worked really well. It held everything perfectly in place and nothing came loose, nothing broke. It actually worked really well. So I'm adding these blue small details to the chest plate, which are also in my comic book. I'm then going to use a silver marker to add in metallic on things like the armor. After that, I use a little bit of black marker to add some shadows to the chest plate to give it a bit more contouring, and super glue to attach the small shoulder cape as well. This is getting close to finished in terms of the base figure itself. It's just a lot of small detail work at this point, adding little tiny details with the paint, adding some gold buttons with some yellow paint on the belt. Now the belt, in hindsight, I could have shaped it a little bit closer to my comic book character, but I don't think it's terrible how it turned out. I just think it's one of those things in hindsight I could fix. Then we move on to the head. Now, I 3D printed a model of my own head. I modeled my own head, 3D printed it in resin, in a flesh tone resin. I then cured it and cleaned it, ready for the painting process. Now, before you can paint the heads, I actually need a way to attach the heads to the figure, so I used my Dremel tool and basically removed a bunch of material from the bottom of the head so I could add in a little attachment so it'll fit perfectly onto the figure. Easy. So I used the little connector from the helmet from the original figure and just cut that and modified that to fit onto the head. I used a little bit of heat from my blowtorch to perfectly mold it inside of the resin head that I printed, and yeah, it's basically ready for painting now. However, I actually didn't end up painting the head on this figure. I enlisted some help from one of the boys, so I'm now going to head over to Oz and myself, and they can explain. So I am joined by Oz from Team Oz today, and the reason he's here is because I was at painting my head for my figure. I just couldn't get it. Genuinely, I've never done like flesh. I've never done flesh tones on painting before, but you're a Warhammer painter. You paint miniatures, and you're very good. So I enlisted your help.
Thanks, man.
And you did the head. Mm-hmm. Can you run us through a bit of the...
Yeah, process? Just a basic Bugman's Glow flesh tone as a base coat. Put a wash of Gilman flesh tone on it, then reapply some of the Bugman's Glow, so it's just the recesses that are nice dark shade. Then put on a highlight of Kislev flesh.
Kislev, yeah.
Yeah, Kislev flesh, and it was done. Then did the eyes.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
So you've done a great job. I'm actually really happy with what you did. I think it looks fantastic.
Me too.
But that's not all. Why don't I give you a chance to see how good you can do it?
Yeah.
So here I have one of the figures. Now this is all the parts left over from the original figure that I made. I just basically super glued them all together for you to paint however much you want, in as much detail you want. The only criteria is you have to remain to the same color as my armor in the original one.
That'd be cool, man. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And then we can put them side by side and see which one looks better. What do you think?
That sounds like a plan.
Right, so thank you for coming on, Oz. Team Oz on YouTube. Check him out. He makes great content when he can be bothered, and he does really good painting stuff as well. Is there anything you want to say?
Thank you.
So yeah, Oz ended up painting the figurehead and it looks fantastic. Thank you, Oz, for that. And this is basically where the figure is at. It's pretty much done. So now it's moving on to all of the small, little tiny details to finish out this project. I cast a small little lightsaber that my character has. I used the silver marker again to give the lightsaber hilt its color. Then I took the figure and now it's time to actually start putting it all in the packaging that it originally came with. So I put the figure in, I'm also going to put the lightsaber in, but the last thing that I need to modify is the blaster. The blaster is just a silver blaster. I want to change the color, so I went with a metallic blue for the blaster. This is also accurate to my comic book character. So now we move on to the packaging. Now, for the sticker, basically the front of the packaging, I used some of my own comic art from the comic book. I modified it a little bit, obviously gave it the big Star Wars logo, made it so it fit the original packaging design, of course. I lined up the art as much as I could with the original art and then stuck them straight together because the paper has an adhesive backing, and used a very, very sharp razor blade to trim off all the extra. Once I'd done that, there was a few little white bits from where the paper had torn from where I was cutting it, so I just used a bit of black marker and rubbed the ink into the paper. All of those little weathering bits disappeared and looked brand new. It actually came out a lot better than I was hoping. Like, I hoped it would be good, but it turned out really well. Then we need to glue back the plastic figure holder to the cardboard backing. So here it is, the finished figure. It turned out absolutely incredible. I am very, very happy with the quality of this. And I think it's genuinely at a point where if you saw this on the shelf with these ones, you would think it's just a regular real figure. I am actually, I think it turned out better than I originally thought it would. You know, when you go into these sorts of projects, you think, yeah, it'll turn out good. I mean, hopefully it'll turn out good, but it's not until you finally see the end result and you're like, that turned out pretty good. And that's kind of where this one is. I am very, very happy with it. There's only one final thing, and that is to put a protective case over the case, but hey, that's usually what you do with these like collector's items, and this one to me is a collector's item. I absolutely love this one. But thanks for watching, guys. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. This was a really big project, a long project for me. I've had this you know, in the background for quite a while. I've wanted to make one since I was a little kid, and it's finally done. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below of which figure you like more, this one or Oz's version. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I'll see you in another video. Have a good one.